Tesla just issued a massive recall. So is it time for owners to panic, or is this just totally blown out of proportion? Also, can you buy a Tesla without having a home charging solution, get a secret Tesla discount, or just totally take an app and your car will drive for you as long as autopilot is engaged? The world of Tesla is exciting and absolutely wild, and as many people consider buying their very first Tesla and probably their very first electric car, there are a ton of questions as to what they should do, and frankly, a lot of misinformation out there around Tesla, the company, and the vehicles themselves. So in this video, I'm breaking down the top 7 myths about owning a Tesla, the top FUD that you need to know about before you choose to buy, between autopilot, recall, secret discounts, secret hidden features. Let me tell you about the myths that are just untrue and what you need to know about buying and owning a Tesla. And a big thanks to Masterworks for sponsoring this video. So before I bought my very first Tesla back in 2019, my Model 3 Standard Range Plus, I think I read through every forum post, I watched every YouTube video, and scoured the web for as much info as I could find about Tesla and the whole Tesla ownership experience. I wanted to know absolutely everything, and there's a good chance that if you're watching this video, maybe you're considering buying a Tesla, you just bought one and you're waiting to take delivery, or maybe you got a Tesla, you own it now, but you want to make sure you get the full and sort of unlimited Tesla ownership experience. And according to all the data, Tesla is making some of the best vehicles on the road right now, some of the best cars you can buy. They're leading the EV industry in safety, technology, design. These cars are universally loved all over the world. But for the past few years, there has been a growing amount of myths surrounding these cars and the company that you really need to know about. So let me break down the big FUD, the misinformation, the lies around Tesla, the ownership experience, the buying process, basically Tesla as a whole that you need to know about, and share this video with friends and family because a lot of misinformation about Tesla is going around, and I think it's time we set the record straight. So let's first talk about autopilot and full self-driving, because this is something that always makes headlines in mostly negative ways. Anytime a Tesla is involved in some sort of crash or accident or mishap, it always makes headlines because everybody believes, or at least most people believe, that Tesla's autopilot system is somehow extremely dangerous and shouldn't be allowed on the road. Now, let me be clear that Tesla is not perfect. Of course, no company is, no driver is, but for the vast majority of these instances, most of these problems are the result of human error. And not only do you have to manually enable autopilot in the Tesla settings and agree to the terms of service that you are responsible for driving even while autopilot is on, you are still in control, but autopilot only works officially here on highways, and it does require you to confirm that you are paying attention, whether that be touching a button on the wheel or putting an amount of pressure or weight on the wheel. The autopilot system doesn't just sit back and let you do whatever. It is going to regularly make you confirm that you are paying attention and you are awake, present, and ready to take over if need be. To be clear, this system does not let you watch Netflix or go on TikTok on your phone or take a nap, as some of these videos would suggest. That simply is not how autopilot works, unless you are trying to cheat the system and being sort of, willingly dangerous. That's just not how autopilot works as a stock feature. I should also mention that it's a similar story for Tesla's full self-driving beta. This has been in Super Bowl ads and headlines over and over again. People really think this system is unsafe, whether that be for nefarious purposes or not. But to be clear, this is a system that will allow the car to drive on city streets. It'll make turns, it'll change lanes. But again, the driver has to manually turn this on and agree to the terms and conditions that you as the driver are still in full control. In fact, Tesla says users are something like 5 times safer in full self-driving than in manual regular driving mode. Don't let the media scare you. This is not some dangerous system looking to take down people off the road or anything like that. People have to agree to use the FSD beta system safely, and if used correctly and if you're paying attention, this can be a really great and powerful system that should be the future of autonomy in our vehicles. And speaking of vehicles, new buyers are in a pretty sweet spot right now. The lithium surplus is actually making EVs overall cheaper than ever. Lucky for you guys, because, well, let's face it, it might be the only true deal we can find on the market this year. That's because energy prices, food prices, new car sticker prices, they're all through the roof, and they just keep going up. And even if you're making six figures nowadays, chances are there's nothing left over for savings after your expenses. And if you can put some money away, inflation is like eating into it as we speak. Honestly, it's hard to get by, even harder to get ahead, but there's always ways to try to get back what you should have had. In fact, in the last year, the price of one luxury asset appreciated on average a staggering 29% at auctions, according to Barron's. Of course, I'm talking about contemporary art, and now you can access it in minutes without needing millions of dollars in the bank, thanks to a revolutionary service that's also sponsoring this video, and that's Masterworks. Masterworks paid out over $25 million in total to their investors last year, and that's not like a one-off. Every Masterworks exit to date has returned a profit to investors like you. I mean, just take a look at this performance. The results certainly speak for themselves. With over 670,000 users, Masterworks offerings have sold out in literally minutes. In fact, it is so popular right now, they have a wait list that users have to sign up for, that they have to wait before they can get access to the platform. But luckily for you guys, I have partnered with Masterworks. I'm going to let you skip that wait list and get instant access to Masterworks right now by clicking my special link down below in the description. There has never been a more important time than right now to diversify your investing. Masterworks has revolutionized art investing. They make it simple, they make it easy, and you can get instant access to the platform right now. So again, check out Masterworks for yourself today. Skip that wait list, get instant access by clicking my link right down below in the description. The second big question I see all the time, and a question I had myself before buying a Tesla, was really the whole charging situation, because this can get complicated very fast. Now, the ABCs of EVs is always be charging, so my big question was, could you happily own a Tesla, an electric vehicle, fully electric vehicle, without having some reliable way to charge at home? Was it going to be okay, or were you setting yourself up for a nightmare? And over the past few years, I've gone through all three stages of charging. I had no home charger, then I had access to trickle charging, now I have access to a faster level 2 charger. So let me give you the rundown of all of them, because I'll tell you, one of these in particular completely destroyed my battery. When I first got my 2019 Standard Range Plus, that car had a maximum range of 240 miles, and I had no charging solution. The apartment I lived at had no chargers, so I just assumed, well, I'd probably be okay. That was enough range. I'd figure it out. Maybe once a week or so I'd have to figure out how to charge, but generally I thought it'd be fine. And for the most part, it was fine. That 240 miles of range was enough. I was working some days at home, some days in the office, and it wasn't a big deal. And generally when we went out to the movies or the mall or somewhere with a public charger, I'd plug in, I'd charge it for a few hours, and I'd be good to go. And all in all, it generally wasn't a problem until it was. For the most part, things were normally fine, but where it became an issue for me was when I was running low on charge. If I had, 15, 10% left, it was always stressful thinking, where am I going to go to charge? Do I need to go to a supercharger? What am I going to do? In most cases, if you have some place you regularly visit that has a charger, it's not a huge deal. But if you didn't and you were like me, then you might result into using Tesla's supercharging network as sort of being your home charger, quote unquote. And this is something that Tesla doesn't advise, and they don't advise it for good reason. A couple of reasons. The main one for me is that it'll really accelerate battery degradation and not do any good for your battery. And truth be told, I can tell you that after regularly supercharging my car for a year, maybe 1 or 2 times a week, I caused a noticeable amount of degradation in my battery. I can't remember exactly what the figure was that I lost, but I think it was about 5 to 10% of range in 1 year. Mind you, 1 year, I lost 10% just from supercharging all the time, which I know was not recommended, but something I just did because I didn't have a charger, and that's just sort of how it was. If you have another place to charge, you can charge, at the office or the movies or the market or something like that. It's not a huge deal, but it is something to sort of consider because it can be a little inconvenient, and just don't be like me and use supercharging all the time, because that will definitely wreck your battery. The second option here is trickle charging, which is basically using a regular 120 volt outlet to trickle charge your car at 1 mile to 2 miles per hour. This was generally not a bad thing at all. In fact, most of the time at the apartment I lived at, they put in trickle charging solutions so I could trickle charge. And then when I first moved into this home, there was no charger, so I could only trickle charge, which wasn't too bad. If you have access to a regular outlet, that's certainly better than nothing, and it was okay. And generally I found that it was not an issue unless I did a lot of driving back to back. So for example, if I went out on the weekend, I ran some errands, I drove the car a lot, it was down to 10%, but then I worked from home for 2 to 3 days, well, I just plugged in the car and it was fine. After, 2 days-ish, maybe 40-ish, 48 hours, the car would recharge and I would be good to go. The problem became when I was doing a lot of back-to-back driving, sort of, as the name suggests, sort of back-to-back. So if I did a lot of driving on the weekend and then Sunday night I plugged in, but then Monday morning I was driving around or going to work, the car didn't have enough time to recharge. That rate of charge was so slow with trickle charging that it made it very inconvenient, and that just became a solution that didn't work. So if you do a lot of driving back to back, trickle charging is better than nothing, but it's not ideal. And then of course there's the full charging experience. This is what most people want. It's a level 2 charger. This will charge your car at 30 to 35-ish miles an hour. You have to usually buy these, either from Tesla or by a third-party station. You've got to get them installed by an electrician. But if you are sort of looking to stay in the EV game for the long run and you're looking to make that investment now, for a few $100, you can get one installed, and it is really nice to have it. Beautiful peace of mind knowing that I can go to bed with a totally dead car and wake up in the morning 6 or 7 hours later with a totally full charge. That is really nice, and the full charging experience is definitely great. It is ideal, not always possible, but worth it if you can have the means and the space to install a more permanent, faster charger. Next, let's talk about pricing, because there are 2 important myths here that I want to bust. The first is about cost. Teslas can no doubt be very expensive cars, especially the Model S and Model X, around $100,000. They are more premium, luxurious cars, especially in the EV space. But with the federal tax incentives and the credits and the discounts, the Model 3 and Model Y are more affordable than they've ever been before. The Model 3 and Model Y, which you see everywhere on the road, they aren't the $100,000 car that Tesla only makes. They are much cheaper, in some cases, under $50,000, under $40,000, and are much more affordable than many people think they are. The other point I want to talk about here is some sort of secret discount you can get or negotiating with Tesla to get a better rate. Is there any advantage, I get this question all the time, to walking into a Tesla store, talking to someone face to face? Can you negotiate a better price? The answer is no. For better or worse, that is not how Tesla works. The price you see on the website is the price you're going to get. Now, you can go the used route and buy a used Tesla, and if you buy a used Tesla from a regular car dealership, which you can do, then you can negotiate there. But the only time that you're going to find a new car or a newer car at a discount from Tesla is if Tesla is selling their inventory cars, their demo cars, their showroom cars. Sometimes they will offer a couple of $1,000s off, but usually there is no negotiating with Tesla for any kind of price decrease. What you see is what you're going to pay. Okay, the next one we need to talk about is a little controversial, and that is about Tesla recalls. This always makes headlines. Media outlets have a field day with this. There's a frenzy. Anytime Tesla announces a recall, it sounds like the world is going to end. These cars are exploding. The company is going to go bankrupt, and that the world is over for Tesla because they messed up and all these cars, hundreds of thousands of cars, have this fatal flaw. That is simply not true, and that's not what it is. In most cases, a Tesla recall is simply a software update where Tesla identifies a bug and issues a free over-the-air software update that'll update on the affected vehicles and most of the time fix the issue. The media is obsessed over covering Tesla in any negative spin they can, and when a recall emerges, it usually makes massive headlines because it sounds horrible, and that's generally not the case. Yes, sometimes Tesla can make mistakes and cars do have physical ramifications that need to be recalled and fixed, but most of the time, it's a simple software update. Tesla pushes the button, the update, goes out, fixes the issue, and that's it. It's done. It's over. Most owners don't even know or care about it. But the media loves to hype this up. But usually, I'd say ignore the whole Tesla recall thing because 99% of the time, it's just not a big deal. And then last but certainly not least, I want to talk about range anxiety because this is a big one, especially for those who are buying their first electric vehicle. Many are just very worried that 250, 300 miles, 350 miles, it's just not going to be enough. And they're very, very worried that they're going to run out of battery on the side of the road and be stranded because their EV could not be refilled as easily as pulling up to a gas station and pulling a nozzle. Now, yes, charging up an EV is not as simple as going into a gas station and being out in like 2 minutes. That's simply not how it works. But one of the perks of EV ownership is that there is a very nice wide variety of supercharging stations, mostly by Tesla around the world, but also that you can charge at home. And if you are fortunate enough to be able to install a level 2 charger, you have access to a trickle charging solution, being able to charge at home is like leaving home every day with a full tank of gas, so to speak, in your EV. And if you can do that, range anxiety is typically not an issue. Now, I understand that if you're doing a lot of driving or if you're on road trips, you don't have a reliable way to charge, you can be concerned about sort of running out of juice. And I remember when I first got my Tesla and going full EV and full electric, it could be a little nerve-wracking seeing those miles tick down on the screen. And in that instance, I have one big recommendation I would make is that I would recommend tapping on that battery icon and changing it from miles left to percentage for one big reason. Let's say I had 200 miles left on my car. That's great. It feels good and everything's good there. But when I got down to like, 50 miles, 30 miles, 20 miles, I start to get really nervous and I'm going to run out of juice at the next turn. Of course, I got 20 miles left, so to speak, depending on other factors there, but just for simplicity, I got that left, but I'm worried that I'm going to run out just by hitting the accelerator. But instead of seeing 20 miles, you saw 10%, then maybe you'd put your mind a little bit more at ease because we think of our phones, for example. Like, I don't see like the amount of time exactly I'm going to have on this thing left, but I can see a percentage. So 72, pretty good, or even 10%, I know my phone. And it's sort of the same with your car. So when you get to that 10% on your phone, you know that you need to find a place to charge relatively soon, but 10%, you got a little wiggle room. You can watch another video, play a game. It's going to be okay. Same for the car. Switching it to percentage sort of takes away a little bit of that range anxiety, letting you know that yes, you should probably charge, but you don't need to be watching it every second to watch every little percentage because you're going to be okay. Just take some time to adjust. And one of the things that I tell everyone who asks is that you really have to try to let your Tesla die, or really any EV for that matter, especially if you can charge at home, you should be good to go and you don't have to worry about it. And even if you're on a road trip, at least for Teslas, you're not going to be stranded without charging because the car knows what your state of charge is, it knows where you're going, it knows inclines, it knows declines, it knows different factors, and it's going to make sure you stop at a supercharger so you can charge and you can be good to go so you can continue on to your destination. If you blatantly ignore supercharging and you ignore the car and you do your own thing, then you run the risk of maybe running out of juice. But you really got to be oblivious and really sort of ignore the car and what it's telling you to run out of juice. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the Tesla FUD? The fear, uncertainty, and the doubt. I see a lot of information about it, and I think a lot of people, as they look to maybe get their first EV and go to a Tesla, are swayed by a lot of the headlines or the scary tactics, and a lot of people looking to paint Tesla into a bad light. And look, Tesla's not perfect, their cars aren't perfect, the software experience isn't perfect, but they are certainly making some of the best cars on the road, the sleekest, the safest, the most tech-packed cars on the road today, and are filled with many amazing features. If used responsibly and if sort of cared for responsibly over an ownership experience, you're just going to have a blast with the car. And I think that many should know the upsides and the bright side of owning a Tesla. Don't let the fear get you down. It's a really great car and you're going to love it if you're looking to buy. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on all this stuff? Let me know down below. What's the biggest Tesla myth you want to bust and sort of set the record straight on? Let me know down below as well. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. I'm Robert Rosenfeld, and I'll see you all in the next one.